afternoon, or morning, wherever that you are. As she said, I'm a Google certified innovator, and I am the instructional technology specialist for our school district. So I work with teachers hand in hand every day in face-to-face classrooms and help them solve issues that they're facing, which, as we know right now, we've got a lot of issues that we're trying to figure out. I am the assistant principal for our virtual school and the principal currently right now for our summer school that we have, which we have more kids taking summer classes than we've ever had before. Not for sure if it's because of COVID communication or what, but we've got parents that are wanting kids actively working this summer. Also, I got a podcast that I do, Get Inspired and Innovate, where we share lots of information just like this with people. So if you want to, go on over there and subscribe. So first thing I want to share with you is my classroom and what it looks like, because as I said, I'm an online teacher. So if we'll go to the next slide. My classroom is a distance learning classroom, so you can see my students that are in this classroom. I am not in this classroom with the students. If you look on the TVs, in the top and the bottom, I am on the TVs, and this is a picture of my desk where I generally teach them from every day. So I'm teaching 8th grade students what we call Integrated Math 3. Some of you guys would know it as Algebra 2. We take the geometry skills and mix it with Algebra 2 and do that. So it's taught in an online distance learning flip format. So I'm a flip teacher. So Latasha, if you need some flip content, mrkeysclassroom.com. I've got some videos and things there that you are welcome to steal and have and use that in your classrooms. You don't even have to give me credit for it. So take it and use it as you like. So for us, we have a model that we use here in Putnam County. If you go on to the next slide, we've been working with education elements for a few years now with personalized learning. So we try to use data. We want to make data-driven decisions so that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. So we want to take that data and then we want to target the instruction for our students. Okay, but how do we do that? We have to use flexible content and tools for that. So we need tools that are good tools that we can really target and meet the needs for individuals or individual students. And the last thing that we want at the end is we want our students to reflect and own that learning. So that is our ultimate goal that we're looking for. So as we started working through this plan, we actually had one more challenge. So on February 5th, we actually had a tornado that hit Cookeville, Tennessee. If you go on to the next slide, and we had many students that were displaced. We had a couple of teachers that actually lost their lives. A couple of students lost their lives in this tornado. But we had another situation that we had to figure out before we had to figure this one out. So as we started going through this, we had to do a well-being check for everybody. So on the next slide, you can see our well-being check was both for our students and our teachers. We needed to know, do you have shelter? Okay, do you have food? What kind of devices do you have at home? And do you have internet? So we had to do a quick well-being of where's everybody at, because our first priority was shelter and food. And then next, if we're going to go on with learning, device and technology. So we sent out a Google form. We had teachers actually call every single student and ask them these questions and fill out the Google form for that. So because we wanted to model what we were doing, so we had to have data so we could figure out exactly what we needed to do. The next thing we did was we took inventory of exactly what we had. So in our school district, we had 8,000 Chromebooks. If you go on the next slide, we had, at the time, we had 20 hotspots, and we had programs that were just all across the board. So when we got back our data from our students, we needed to push out 2,000 Chromebooks. No problem. We got those. We took them off carts. We sent those out. But what we wasn't expecting was we needed 500 hotspots to go out to students. So we had to purchase hotspots real quick, which we did. Verizon worked with us, and we pushed those out. Luckily, every person who wanted a Chromebook or who wanted a hotspot, we were able to provide that with them. But then next, we needed to figure out exactly how we're going to get content and be able to teach these students. So we built a plan together as a team, and then we had to push our communications out. So we had, on the next slide, you'll see our district plan, our teacher expectation plan, and our student expectations. And I've got a website that I can give you guys that breaks this down further than that, but we wanted to push that communication out. Luckily for us, about in January, on the next slide, you'll see we started using Clever to actually give us exactly what is being used in our district. So we saw Google Classroom is being used by 90% of our students, 84% of our teachers. So we knew that Google Classroom was going to be a great delivery method for that. We also have Canvas in our district, and we use that a lot too, but it wasn't being used by all of our students and teachers. So we thought this was going to be the best thing for us to do. So now that we saw the programs that's being used, the next thing we had to do was we got to train our teachers. So we started online training for teachers. And it's just a cute little picture here on the next slide. And I felt like Brad Paisley. I don't know if y'all know who Brad Paisley is, but he's a country music singer from here in Tennessee. And I felt like I was famous online. He's got that song that he's 6 foot tall and something, something, something. I don't know. But anyways, I felt like Brad Paisley because I was online so much and doing videos and trainings, I actually blew a computer up. So I'm having to use somebody else's computer now. But what we decided was we first off needed to see where all of our students were. So we wanted to get pre and post data on where those students were. So we used Edulastic and Google Forms for that. On the next slide, you'll see. We used Edulastic to be able to do that. A lot of the teachers had PDFs and things that they used in the past. Edulastic's got a quick little tool that you can use called SnapWiz, where you can dump that in there and then you can set up where the students go in and type their answers in. And a lot of times it'll just grade it right for them depending on the types of questions that you ask. Other teachers felt more comfortable with Google Forms. And we said, okay, if that's what you want to use, that's fine. But just know that it's going to dump into a CSV. You're going to have to collect and do your data from that. And then we use another little program called ZipGrade. And ZipGrade is something that students could do on their phone. So as you'll see on the next couple of slides, you'll see the data that we got back from Edulastic. So this is a pretest that we sent out for one of our math classes. And we could see quickly that, some students didn't get it done in time. That's what the gray box is for. There's a lot of yellow and a lot of red here. So that's okay though, because this is a pre-test and we're just trying to figure out exactly where the kids are at. So you can see in the middle there, one of the students has got a lot of green and only one little yellow box. Well, guess what? That girl, we just let her move right along to the next content. So now we're getting our data so we can target our instruction so that we can meet the needs of all students. On the next slide, it actually breaks it down by standard. So I know my exact standards that I need to cover. And then on the last one, it has got it by standard type by on the question there. So each question on there. So this is how you could do it if you did it through Edulastic. Now, if you did it through Google Forms, you would go in, you would make your quiz, and it gives you the option to make a quiz. And on the next slide, there's a little animated GIF here that will walk you through how to make that quiz. And then you set it up as a quiz. You don't get as much data back, in my opinion. And if you're really good with CSV files, you can make it work. Edulastic, though, was the tool that I chose to use. And here we go. All right, so the biggest mistake that we made was the synchronous versus asynchronous. We were trying to do everything synchronous, which sounds great. And we had most of our kids logging on and working with us. But we had, some places or some parents only had one device at home, so only one kid could be on at a time. And others was, parents were working, so they couldn't be there to help children at home. So we quickly went to both asynchronous and asynchronous. So what we did was, if you go on to the next slide, our delivery method was we used Zoom like we're using right now. And we met synchronously with everybody that we could. We were going to use Google Meets, and some of the teachers still did use Google Meets, but when we first started, it wasn't exactly where we needed it. So we chose Zoom to go with in the district. And we recorded all of our meetings live and then pushed it out through Google Classroom. So those that couldn't join us, in the live meetings, we went with asynchronously through Zoom. We also used Loom and Screencastify also for some of that asynchronous learning too. The next thing was we had our curriculums. And I don't know, click the screen one time because I got two that are missing there for some reason. Yeah, there we go. All right. So, back one. There we go. So the first things that we wanted to look at was what is our district curriculum? And for ELA and math, we use CKLA and Curriculum Associates. So we wanted to make sure that we were using those as much as possible, but everyone knows that not all curriculum is meant to be used in digital format. So we also have Edgenuity, SMOOP, and Lexia Core 5 that we were going to try to use. Those were district curriculums that we owned, but we still had a few gaps. So I want to send a shout out to Discovery Education. They actually allowed us to use their platforms for free to test it out. For those of you who don't know CK12 is a free OER resource. I really like it. They've got some really good content there that you can use and pair it up with Edulastic. And then, of course, Khan Academy. And their Khan Academy is not only just math anymore, but they also have other content. So we had our curriculums in places that we were going to use them. So the next thing that we had to figure out was with our students, especially it being in an online format, was engagement and practice. Okay, so as Allen Iverson would say, we're talking about practice. So if you go on to the next slide there, Ileana, for me, these are the tools, I'm sorry, that we would use for our practice and engagement. iExcel, they stepped up, thanks to iExcel for allowing us to use it for free for all of our students. So we use that. No Red Ink, Common Lit, Edpuzzle. So a lot of these we were using for practice, but also engagement. And our students really gravitated towards the quizzes, Book Creator, and Flipgrid because that's where they got to go in and they got to create content that they could send out to the students. And then the last thing, I didn't put this on the slides, but for our SEL, we were doing nighttime Kahoots with students. So if they wanted to jump on and do a Kahoot game together, they could, and it was all about just fun. And we did Zoom meetings during lunchtime, so you could have lunch with your teachers and with your students just to jump in there and say, hey, this is what's, they could ask questions and things like that. And then last, just closing out, if you want to contact me, I'm at Lance R. Key on Twitter. MrKeysClassroom.com is my flipped learning website. So you can go there and get flipped videos. Get Inspired and Innovate is the podcast that I host. And then Key Skills for Success was my Google Innovator project. It's about giving students the skills they need to be successful post-secondary.